In the previous video, I went through and Cerakoted these brake parts for my CR250 build. To watch that video, click the circle right up here in the corner. So today's project is rebuilding these brakes. I've got the kits for both master cylinders and calipers. These have new O-rings, seals, washers, pins, everything necessary to freshen up the brakes. And then I've got a new set of Caliper pads as well. Big thank you to Rocky Mountain and All Balls for sending over those kits. If any of you guys are going to be rebuilding your brake systems, I've got a video of the disassembly of these brakes over on the channel. This video will cover the rebuild section of it. I'm going to go ahead and start with the front brake caliper. The first step is going to be installing the new O-rings into the caliper body. They just pop in right back here. To help with sliding the new O-rings into the caliper body, I'll be applying some brake fluid to the bore of the caliper. Just going to pour a little bit of the brake fluid into the cap here. On this caliper, we've got a thicker and a thinner O-ring. The thicker one is going to go in first since it sits farther inside the caliper body. Now for the thinner O-ring, this one just goes on the outer edge. Alright, time to pop in the seals for the other bore. I've got both sets of seals in, and now they're ready for the pistons. When you're installing the piston, obviously you want it to go in straight, but also make sure you're not scratching up the outer surface here on the caliper body as you're pushing it into place. So the pistons and O-rings went in pretty easily, but what I was curious about is if the Cerakote would hold up to brake fluid. I got a little bit here on the surface, and I don't see any bubbling up at all. Looks like it's holding up great. Alright, next up, it's pretty straightforward. Just got these new rubber grommets that pop into place, as well as the locating pins, and the bleeder valve to thread onto the caliper. So for this rubber grommet, a little bit of Maxima assembly lube will help slide that thing right into the caliper. For the pins and bleeder valve, I definitely recommend using some blue Loctite to keep them into place. Finally, I can slide the caliper onto the caliper mount. But first, definitely want to grease up the caliper slide pins. Here I've got my mini grease gun, and it is filled up with Maxima waterproof grease. So I'm just going to fill up these caliper slide pin holes. Now I've got a caliper that just slides super smooth on the pins. Before I install the new brake pads, I've got a few clips to install here. Alright, that is one sweet looking caliper. Now it's on to the front brake master cylinder. Alright, now for the front master cylinder, I've got this all balls rebuild kit. Let's take a look what's inside. Okay, so we've got a replacement boot, a new clip, some washers for the banjo bolt. Looks like more banjo washers. Seals for the piston, a washer, and finally a spring for the piston as well. Looks like everything is here. The first step to putting this thing back together is installing the new O-rings and spring onto the old piston. Let's be using this little pick to work these seals off the piston. Of course, as you're pulling the old seals off, you want to keep track of which one went where and in what direction. On this master cylinder, we have two different sizes and they were facing a specific way. So these seals are pretty tricky to get onto the piston, but once you get it up onto the shaft here, to get it over this lip here, I used a small flat blade screwdriver to gently pry it up and over. Definitely don't want to pull on it too much or damage the outside of the seal. The piston is all ready to go into the cylinder now. Just gonna loop it up with some brake fluid. And then on the end, opposite of the spring, goes a washer and clip. So this whole assembly slides into the cylinder, spring first. Before I pop that clip into place, just gonna make sure the piston operates smoothly. This master cylinder is definitely a tough one for getting that clip into place. Such little room to work with in there. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. Just compress the clip with the circlip pliers and simultaneously push down the clip with the flat blade screwdriver. And then once again, just gonna make sure the piston operates smoothly inside the cylinder. Looks like all balls included a replacement boot here. I'm gonna go ahead and pop that into the cylinder too. So that is it for the piston installation. Just a couple things to assemble up top here. And just for temporary, before I get these brakes onto the bike and fill them up with fluid, I'm gonna keep things clean by putting on the master cylinder cap. And of course, I wanna see how this thing looks all put together. That is incredible looking. Love the combination of those two colors. Definitely gonna need to get some new screws for the cap here, and I'm hoping to get some billet banjo bolts as well. I gotta give a big thank you to Maxima for being the sponsor of all the fluids and grease for this build. You can check them out over at maximausa.com. Incredible products, by the way. As I was ordering all the rebuild kits for these brakes, I ordered the wrong front brake master cylinder kit. I ordered it for an 03 and I'm using a 2015 front master cylinder. So I've got an extra rebuild kit here and I figured why not do a giveaway on it. So I want you guys to write down below what your favorite brand of bike is. And then I'm gonna go through and pick a random comment, and I'll ship this rebuild kit over to you. So this kit fits pretty much every Honda big bike from 96 to 18, besides the 07 to 18 CRF250 and 450. So write your comment down below, and hopefully I pick someone that could use this kit. All right, now the rear brakes should be really similar to how the fronts went together. So I'm installing the last part onto this rear brake caliper mount. It's this little clip for the brake pads, and it doesn't fit very tightly inside that groove. It's got some wiggle room in it, which is pretty common with them. So what you can do is bend the tabs on the end. It's pretty simple. Grab a pair of needle nose, bend the tab just a little bit. Keep in mind, as you're installing the brake pads, try not to touch the braking surface. It's really sensitive to any type of oil or residue. That is going to be it for the rear caliper. Turned out super good. And now it's time to knock out the rear master cylinder. All right, I was having some trouble getting this lower seal on. Just such a tight fit on there, and the hole is super small. And what I did is I grabbed the clevis off the master, since the hole is about the same size as the bottom of this piston. And I was able to work the seal on by just pushing the piston through the hole on the clevis. Worked out pretty slick. super pumped with how these brakes came out. And on top of that, just got some new brake lines in the mail. I cannot wait to pair these up. Should look pretty sweet. So this project wouldn't have been possible without Rocky Mountain, Maxima, All Balls, and Trick Engineering. I'll put the links to their websites down below. I cannot wait to show you guys the upcoming projects for this build. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay tuned. Alright, I'll check in with you later.